The Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock beef has been going on for quite a while now, and honestly, it was one-sided for a while, up until late last year when Stephen A. Smith was somewhat addressed Jason Whitlock by calling him out of his name in a subliminal diss.
Now, there's a lot of people out there that want me to address other names. There's one particular person who will remain nameless, and I will not deny it. I think he's a fat, no-good bastard who I despise to the core.
Mentioning Jason Whitlock is a mistake because Jason Whitlock is a parasite. Jason Whitlock identifies a target and is relentless on that target. We've watched Jason Whitlock do 20 videos on Shannon Sharpe within a 1-week period. The man is unhinged. So Stephen A. Smith mentioning him just put more fuel in his fire because Jason Whitlock, being the unhinged person he is, will do a 3-month investigation digging into Stephen A. Smith's past. So Jason Whitlock decided he was going to do an expose live stream where he essentially take a deep dive into Stephen A. Smith's past and point out inconsistencies and lies. He started off by questioning a couple of things from Stephen A. Smith's book.
So Stephen A. is saying that Winston-Salem State, at the end of their basketball season, when they're preparing for their conference tournament, and maybe trying to qualify for the Division II postseason tournament, that they play a game on Saturday. He wakes up the next morning, they're having a scrimmage that he arrives to late in the middle of, and Big House Gaines checks this 6'1", 150-pound guard from New York City who played a couple of months of high school basketball without acquiring any stats or anything, played a month or two of junior college basketball without acquiring any stats or anything. He shuts down a practice, checks Stephen A. Smith into the scrimmage, and then, according to Smith's account, he knocked down 17 straight shots in the scrimmage. And Big House Gaines offered him a full scholarship immediately after the practice. I'm reading this, and when I read it, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is a comic book. And this man's calling this his memoir.
Stephen A. Smith's scholarship story is kind of sus. He was playing in the park with some homies, and his homie drove him up to Winston-Salem for a scrimmage on a Sunday, and they checked him in. He dropped 17 threes and was given a full-ride scholarship. Now, it got even more sus when Jason Whitlock began to take a deep dive into Stephen A. Smith's basketball or collegiate career and the lies and inconsistencies that came from Stephen A. Smith's own mouth.
Who do you think? What is this?
Nah, this is hilarious. JJ's on the right.
It's our starting lineup from tonight.
Well, they're not telling.
What
they're not telling us I only played one game because I cracked my kneecap in half. But that's neither here nor there.
That is neither here.
Walk me through this and walk yourself through it. 1.5 points per game. How do you average that in one game? Is there a 1.5 pointer in Division II basketball? How do you do it?
But then, bizarrely enough, Jason Whitlock will pull up the receipts of Stephen A. Smith contradicting himself and actually telling his audience that he didn't play any games at Winston-Salem.
Let's get the basketball stuff out of the way. I'm sick and tired of people lying about my basketball resume. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say that I wasn't great, I'm talking about compared to greatness. I was good enough to get a basketball scholarship. I was good enough to get my education paid for with 2 bad knees. They talk about I averaged 1.5 points a game. I saw some article on social media. That's a lie. It was less. See that? You didn't know I was going to say that, did you? It was less than that. It's a lie. How about 0? Because I never played, because I cracked my kneecap in half.
But then Jason Whitlock will pull up like a stat sheet from Winston-Salem that shows a Stephen Smith playing 9 games and averaging 1.5 points per game.
But he's now saying he never played in any game because he cracked his knee. Let's put up the image of the 1991 stat sheet for Winston-Salem State University. I think I gave y'all that image of the stat sheet for the 1991 Winston-Salem State. There's a Stephen Smith listed on that stat sheet that says he played 9 games. And I believe it says he averaged 1.5 points. And I believe that's probably where ESPN reached the conclusion in that November 2022 segment that like, oh, this is Stephen A. Smith's senior year. These are his stats. Let's put it up. And that's why Stephen A., if you go back and rewatch he looks so uncomfortable.
So it's unclear, did he play 0 games? Did he play 1 game? Did he play 9 games? Who knows? It's just a bunch of lies, bro. And like, it's unclear exactly why Stephen A. Smith is capping, right? But then it moves on from there and it gets a little bit more bizarre. So Stephen A. Smith would bring his old teammates onto ESPN, and Jason Whitlock will point out something very strange about these old teammates.
Man, Phil Hayes, appreciate you, love your boy. Monte Ross, former assistant coach of St. Joe's, former head coach of Delaware. I want to tell you business. I can tell now where you're going to be at. Temple University, you're going to be assistant coach at.
Stephen A. Smith is 6'1". Them first 3 guys that he just showed you, he's towering over all of them. Stephen A. played on a midget basketball team, but the last guy that they showed him talking to, Gary Stevens, there's no proof, there's no history that he ever existed really at Winston-Salem State. This is just mysterious. Like, who are these guys? Phil Hayes, another midget. Who are they? It's hard to find them. I've seen pictures of Mark Turner that, it's like, I think he's listed at 6'5" on the stat sheet. I see pictures of him on the internet where he looks like 6 foot, 6'1", maybe 6'2" at the tallest, maybe same height. I mean, it's weird.
Stephen A. Smith will have a mental breakdown in his response to Jason Whitlock. And when I say mental breakdown, I mean he's acting out of character. Stephen A. Smith will start off by calling Jason Whitlock a bitch.
While you were on Blaze TV, spewing that bullshit to people, did you tell them that? Did you tell them how you stood outside of First Take begging me to talk to you? Did you tell them that once this same article in Deadspin came out, weeks later you wrote a lengthy apology to me in an email, begging me to forgive you, pointing out how you were betrayed by this particular writer, so you know how I must feel that you betrayed me? Did you tell the folks that, you bitch? Did you tell them? You fat piece of shit.
I've never seen Stephen A. Smith speak like this before, ever. I kind of like it, though. It shows he's not a robot. But Stephen A. Smith didn't really address anything. He just called Jason Whitlock names. He will go on to say that Jason Whitlock is worse than the white supremacist.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a black man, I often told y'all, I cannot imagine, as a black man, knowing our history, anything worse than a white supremacist. That is, until Jason Whitlock came along. He's worse than them. He is the worst, most despicable, lying, no good, fat ass human being I have ever known.
Which I think is a bit much, right? Just, like, Jason Whitlock is bad. He's a parasite. He can, coon it up a little bit, but I don't think that man is worse than the white supremacist, bro. That's just foul. Now, Stephen A. Smith will also say that he has it in his contract that he would never be forced to work with Jason Whitlock ever again. And he will also state that other sports, media personalities, they also have issues with Jason Whitlock, and they also refuse to work with Jason Whitlock.
I have a contract that I negotiated with ESPN and I signed in 2015. I don't know of anyone who has this in their contracts. I had it in my contract, and I have a copy of it, where it specifically stipulates that I never work with Jason Whitlock. It's in writing. No wonder you didn't see him on First Take. You didn't see him on Undisputed with Skip Bayless either. Skip Bayless wouldn't allow him on there. You didn't see him on Numbers Never Lie either. Jamel Hill and Michael Smith wouldn't allow him on there. Christopher Broussard for Fox Sports and Fox Sports Radio. Let me take a moment to tell you.
I don't know what Jason Whitlock did to them folks, but it sounds like he did an awful lot. But instead of responding back to the accusation, Stephen A. Smith would essentially say he's not addressing it because he doesn't have to.
And the funny part about it is when he sits up there and he says, you know, I can't do this or I can't do that. Look, I'm 56 years old. If y'all think now that I'm successful in this business, that I got to sit here and lie about me playing basketball in high school to write in my own damn memoir at this point in time in my life, I can't help y'all. I'm not going to waste my time with that silliness. What I would say to you, however, is this. I have a bestseller.
I guess, but for now, I guess we got to take Jason Whitlock's word for it. Now, I'm by no means saying that Jason Whitlock is innocent in all of this, because let's be real, bro. Jason Whitlock was cooning it up for years on ESPN and Fox News, right? So he's not a good guy, right? Or he's not a guy that we can hang our hat on. But Stephen A. Smith, at the very least, has something to hide because he's not outright addressing it. He's scurrying around the real issues. But y'all let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this, right? And if you're still watching, click on this video here somewhere on my screen to find out why Aries Spears is getting backlash for saying this about Cat Williams. Click on this video here to find out what I'm talking about. Out of here, folks. Peace.